Let's talk about Ken Ham's new book, Ken Ham Daily. Ken Ham, as you know, is the CEO of Answers in Genesis, and Ken Ham Daily is subtitled 365 Musings, Inspirations, and Answers. And it's a thick book, but what it is 365 daily readings, and each day has a short article in the areas of theology, apologetics, science, family, church, and many other resources. Now, the book draws on Ken Ham's more than 50 years of experience in ministry, and I actually had a chance to ask him what went into putting this book together, and here's what he said.
So to discipline myself to do this, Clay, what I did was I went back and found as many articles as I could that I've written over 50 years. I wanted to get at least 400 or so of them, and I found over 400 articles that I'd written. Then I spent a whole year taking each one and modifying it, updating it, revising it, adding to it, changing it for the culture of our day and terminology and so on, and then posted it in a long tweet. Well, what do we call it now? Well, it's called X, right, on Twitter, but very, very long when they allowed the long form tweets, and then posted it on Facebook each day. And it's interesting. I had a lot of people commenting that they loved those. A lot of people complained that you're supposed to have only short posts on social media, and I didn't tell them, but I had a reason for doing it that way. And once I had done over a year of them, I then had went through them, and then had a couple of editors go through them, and then our publisher also had an editor go through them. We put a lot of work into it and compiled them all, put it all together, and so that has taken, well, it's taken 50 years to produce, but it took 2 years of hard work to get all that together.
Is it weird to read something you've written so long ago? Do you look at an article and go, ugh? Or sometimes like, oh, that was really clever. I like that. And you're almost learning from something you wrote, 40 years ago?
It's interesting you say that. I would say, yeah, there are times when I thought I'd forgotten about that argument. That's a great argument. I better remember that. And there was a lot of times where I would say, I use the same argument today. I use the same argument today. I use the same argument today. Why is that? Well, then I realized because the Bible doesn't change. But then I had to also realize that when I started writing these articles 50 years ago, LGBTQ were letters of the alphabet. Today they mean something else. And back then, the rainbow was connected with the Bible and the flood, and now the rainbow has other connections. And the word woke years ago meant I woke up from sleep, and now it means something different. So I obviously had to update it for where the culture's at, what's happened to the culture, which is, really like what Romans 1 describes. And so I had to bring it all up to date and deal with all those issues, the gender issues, the culture issues, compromise in the church, the fact that we now see that Generation Z, less than 9% attend church. So there's been a catastrophic generational loss from the church. So I've seen all those changes as well. So I've seen changes, had to add in lots of things to deal with all the changes that have occurred in our culture.
As an example of the type of articles you find, we turn to a page. We'll look at January 23rd, and what we find here is an article about the importance of discerning the theological claims that other people are making. The example he gives is the idea that someone believes and teaches that the Bible contains the Word of God versus the important difference of saying that the Bible is the Word of God. And he goes in that to help you be more discerning when you hear theological claims as well. Ken Ham and Answers in Genesis have put together a lot of wonderful resources over the years, and what you're going to find in this book is 365 of the best articles that Ken Ham has written that have been curated by Ken Ham himself. So I think you're going to get a lot out of this book. I encourage you to pick up a copy of Ken Ham Daily.